Hello, my name's Karen Sweet and I'm a counsellor at TalkPlus. Today I'm going to be talking about dealing with arguments during social distancing. So what will be covered in this presentation? First of all, I'll be defining what's normal and what isn't when it comes to arguments. And then I'll move on to look at how we can avoid falling out in the first place. And then we'll look at some strategies to deal better with arguments. A little word of caution before we begin. You may actually already know much of the content of this presentation, but I am hopeful that you'll be able to take away several points that could be helpful to you. What I'm going to talk about are normal relationships, but in abnormal circumstances, such as the environment that we're all living in at the moment. And it's important to say that the content cannot be related to domestic violence or abuse in any format. And if actually this is a problem for you at the moment, then I would strongly suggest that you get in touch with a specialist organisation who can really help you. Let's be a bit clearer about the difference between arguments and emotional abuse. Domestic abuse is a pattern of behaviour on the part of the abuser designed to control their partner. Anyone forced to change their behaviour because they are frightened of their partner or their ex-partner's reaction is experiencing abuse. If you feel that this relates to your situation, please think about who you can reach out to, whether that be other family members, a trusted friend, or a professional organisation who will have information and advice to help you. It's important to say that arguments are part of a normal relationship. They're likely to come about when partners don't feel listened to or when feelings aren't acknowledged. It's really important to be able to take a turn to listen as well as to speak in any conversation. I like to think of a healthy argument as more of a robust discussion that may involve differences of opinions and the sharing of some negative feelings, but if handled well, can lead to some problem solving and avoid resentment building up over time. So let's think about how we can avoid falling out to start with. If you're feeling stressed or upset, try talking about your feelings with a friend. They may actually help you to see other people's perspectives and to start thinking of ways to tackle the issue that you're facing. And make sure that you're taking some time out for yourself, especially when you're living and working at close quarters with your partner and other family members. Time out might be a relaxing bath, a walk, or watching a film of your choice. A technique to try when you're really feeling frustrated might be to simply count to 10. This helps you to step back from the situation and think before making your next move. It may also be helpful to think about whether it's worth having an argument, and sometimes it might be easier to choose to let go and to focus on something more positive. Remember that children will be witnessing how you deal with conflict, and if you're able to do this constructively, you're actually teaching them some helpful behaviour. Spending more time at home as a result of COVID and trying to find space for everyone to work and relax can be really challenging. This may naturally lead to more conflict, but how you deal with it is what's important. When I'm working with couples, I always begin with focusing on communication skills. Making time to check in with your partner is really important. If you spend some time talking, and not just about all the practical aspects of family life, then you'll have a better chance of avoiding arguments. So my tip is to think about when would be a convenient time for you to sit down together and do this, and then try to make that happen regularly. Try to be kind to yourself and your loved ones. We're all living in a very challenging time. I had a lovely experience last week when my boiler had been broken for nearly a fortnight, and my son took it upon himself to get up early one morning, change the plug on a little heater that he'd found in our garage, and actually put it in my study ready for me when I came in to start work. I was really touched by that very kind gesture, and was able to tell him that. And he was quite surprised actually about how much it meant to me. But it really did mean something to me. It didn't cost him anything, but it was lovely to start work in a warm office that day. And actually, if you're able to talk about issues with your partner or other members of your family, and if you can see yourselves as a team, you're more likely to be able to solve problems. Let's now look at some tips for managing arguments. And it's probably no surprise that the first tip is to try not to let things get heated in the first place. Notice if there's a negative pattern of communication. Move from you statements, which can sound accusatory, towards I feel statements, which are less accusatory but do let your partner know the impact of how you've perceived their behaviour. So, for example, rather than say, you ignored me when you came home and went straight for a bath, instead you could say, I felt unimportant when you came home and went straight for a bath. This is more likely to lead to a discussion rather than a row. Try to avoid polarised language, such as, we never do this, or it's always like that. Instead, say something like, I felt a bit upset when you did this yesterday. It's less attacking, but it still raises the issue. And if your partner has taken time out, you need to let them have that time. We can't fully know how the other person is feeling and what sort of day they've had. Try to pick the best time to have difficult conversations, so not last thing before trying to go to sleep or when the children are needing lots of attention. So, our second tip. When an argument is getting heated, it's likely to become less and less constructive. Before you say something you may regret, stop and take some time out. Walk away. Say something like, I'm going to take a few minutes, or let's talk about this when we're calmer, or it's important to talk about this, but let's do it when we both have clear heads. And if your partner is suggesting some time out from the argument, it's important to allow that to happen, even if you feel frustrated not to be continuing the conversation. When you're both calm and ready to talk, you're far more likely to have a constructive discussion. My third tip is to reflect on what's more important. You may think of this as trying to put things into perspective. We may want to argue because we feel a sense of injustice, but it may be helpful to think about what's more important, especially given the environment that we're all living in at the moment. Peace is surely more important than one person feeling that they've won an argument, and a resolution to an argument is likely to feel better than one person feeling satisfied that they got their way. Seeking harmony in the relationship will be more helpful than one or both partners venting and then acting on their emotions in a way that doesn't consider the other. My final tip is to try and take a more objective view of the argument and work out what it's really about. Looking at the links between your thoughts, feelings and actions and those of your partner will help. So if the argument appears to be about one partner being 15 minutes late home, it may actually be about the other person feeling that they aren't important and worth their partner getting home to. Or the argument may seem to be about one person not cleaning up in the kitchen, but actually may be about the other person feeling overwhelmed with the day in, day out stress of running a busy home. Often the actual cause of the argument is different from the apparent cause. Getting to the bottom of why we're angry, frustrated or upset can help to reach a resolution. So saying something such as, "I can see that you're upset, but please tell me what it's all about," shows that you care and that you want to know more, and this could lead to a helpful conversation about what can be done differently. So that was a fairly whistle-stop tour through what